The alien princess pointed to the youngest human warrior and said, "He will be mine." The human fleet moved steadily through the void, its silver hulls gleaming in the light of a distant sun. Among the crew, a young warrior named Kale stood at the observation deck of the flagship, watching the alien world grow larger as they approached. He was the youngest in his squad, only 18, but his mind was sharp, and his heart was full of courage. Kale's family had long been heroes of the Human Space Command, but unlike his older siblings, he had never been to the front lines. Most of his training had been in strategy, problem-solving, and negotiation. Yet today, he would step into the greatest unknown of his life, a meeting with the alien rulers of the Lumerian civilization. They were a proud and intelligent people, known for their shimmering crystal cities, graceful floating structures, and advanced technology that humans had never seen before. The human fleet descended toward the largest Lumerian city, a massive palace that hovered over the surface of the planet, suspended by powerful anti-gravity fields. Its towers sparkled with light, and streams of energy ran like rivers along the spires. From this distance, it looked like a castle of stars, impossible and beautiful. Kale's heart pounded as their ship entered the city's atmosphere. Every human present felt the tension in the air. This was the first contact of its kind, and history would remember what happened here. They were not there to fight but to seek peace, to form an alliance that could benefit both species. Yet there was something about the city, its silent elegance, and the quiet power in the air that made Kale feel small. The ship landed gently on a platform made of crystal, and the humans disembarked. The palace doors opened with a soft hum, revealing a hall filled with light. The walls seemed to glow from within, and every surface shimmered with energy. Standing at the far end of the hall was the Lumerian royal court, their figures tall, slender, and shimmering like liquid silver. They regarded the humans with calm, intelligent eyes, studying them with curiosity and subtle caution. Kale followed the commander of the human delegation, Admiral Valen, down the hall. His steps were careful yet steady. He could feel the gaze of the alien court on him, and a strange mix of fear and excitement swirled in his chest. He had trained for moments like this, but no training could prepare a young human for the reality of standing before a truly alien intelligence. Then, as if the universe had paused for a heartbeat, the doors at the far end of the hall opened, and Princess Alira entered. She moved gracefully, her presence commanding attention without a word. Her appearance was otherworldly. Her skin shimmered like mother of pearl, and her eyes were pools of light that seemed to see through every person in the room. She floated slightly above the ground, her long robes trailing like flowing water behind her. The room fell completely silent. Even the hum of energy in the palace seemed to quiet in her presence. Alira's gaze swept across the humans, and for a moment, Kale thought she might ignore them entirely. But then, without warning, she stopped. Her finger lifted and pointed directly at him. "He will be mine," she said, her voice like a melody of wind and stars. Kale froze. The hall erupted in whispers. The humans looked at each other in confusion and astonishment, while the Lumerians in the court exchanged silent glances of shock and intrigue. Kale felt all eyes on him, both human and alien, and his face turned red with embarrassment and disbelief. Admiral Valen stepped forward, trying to maintain composure. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "we are honored, but I do not understand." Alira's eyes held his, calm yet unyielding. "Do not speak for him," she replied softly. "He will show himself in time." Then, as suddenly as she had appeared, she floated backward to the dais and sat, her expression serene and unreadable. Kale's mind raced. Why him? He was young, inexperienced, and not particularly remarkable in appearance. The other humans around him were older, stronger, and more decorated. Yet Alira had chosen him, or at least, she had singled him out. That simple gesture set him apart, made him the focus of attention in a way he had never imagined. After the initial shock, the meeting continued. The Lumerian Council spoke in measured tones, discussing matters of trade, science, and the fragile peace between their species. Kale tried to follow the conversation, though much of it was over his head. He realized he had been thrust into a role he had never expected, not just as a warrior, but as a representative of humanity in the eyes of an alien princess. When the audience ended, Kale found himself escorted through the palace by a young Lumerian attendant. The palace was like a living organism, corridors shifting slightly, walls glowing and crystal floors humming with energy under his steps. Kale could not help but marvel at everything. The floating gardens, waterfalls that seemed to hang in midair, and the creatures that moved silently through the palace, responding to Alira's presence as if she commanded them with thought alone. Finally, he was brought to a private chamber. He leaned against the wall, trying to calm his racing heart. "Why me?" he whispered to himself. There was no answer, only the faint glow of the palace walls around him. He realized that whatever awaited him next, he could not rely on luck alone. He would have to rely on his wits, his courage, and perhaps a part of humanity that no one had ever truly measured, the ability to adapt, to surprise, and to endure. That night, Kale could not sleep. He looked out at the alien sky from his chamber window, seeing unfamiliar stars and moons orbiting a planet that was at once alien and breathtaking. Somewhere out there, Princess Alira watched him, had chosen him for reasons he could not yet understand. And deep inside, Kale felt a spark of determination. If she wanted him, he would not falter. If the universe had singled him out, he would rise to meet it. No matter what trials or challenges lay ahead, he would show that humanity, young, small, and untested, could shine even in the face of the unknown. Outside, the palace shimmered under the twin moons of the Lumerian world. Inside, Kale clenched his fists, feeling a strange mix of fear and excitement. His journey had only just begun, and already he sensed that the path ahead would be unlike anything he had ever imagined. For the first time in his life, Kale felt that he was standing on the edge of destiny. And somewhere deep within the alien princess's quiet, commanding gaze, destiny had already chosen him. The next morning, Kale woke to a soft, glowing light filtering through the crystal walls of his chamber. The strange beauty of the Lumerian palace had not grown less dazzling overnight. In fact, it seemed more alive now, as if the walls themselves were aware of his presence. Kale rubbed his eyes and sat up, the memory of Princess Alira pointing at him still fresh in his mind. He did not know what to expect. Would she appear in the morning? Would the court demand something of him? The uncertainty was heavier than any training exercise he had endured. But Kale reminded himself of one truth. Fear was natural, but courage was about moving forward even in the face of fear. A soft chime sounded, and the door of his chamber slid open. A young Lumerian attendant stepped in, bowing deeply. "Your presence is requested by Princess Alira," the attendant said. "Follow me." Kale swallowed hard but nodded. He followed the attendant through the palace corridors, their path illuminated by softly glowing crystal panels. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that seemed impossible, yet he trusted the attendant's guidance. Soon, they arrived at a wide hall, open to the sky above, where floating platforms hovered over a deep pool of sparkling liquid. At the center of the largest platform stood Princess Alira, her arms folded as she regarded him with calm curiosity. "You are awake," she said, her voice gentle yet commanding. "Good, today your first trial begins." Kale straightened, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am ready, Your Highness." Alira tilted her head slightly. "We shall see, follow me." She stepped onto a floating platform, and without hesitation, Kale followed. The platform moved smoothly, hovering over the pool below. Around them, other platforms shifted gently, forming a path over the sparkling waters. Kale realized that this trial was not just about physical ability. It would test balance, focus, and courage. "Your first task," Alira explained, "is to reach the center platform without falling. Many have tried before and many have failed, but this is not only a test of the body. Watch carefully, think carefully, and trust in your instincts." Kale took a deep breath. His legs felt shaky, but he forced himself to step forward. The platform was stable, but he quickly noticed subtle changes. The surface tilted slightly as he moved, and tiny ripples in the water below seemed to react to his presence. He realized this was as much a puzzle as it was a challenge of balance. Carefully, he adjusted his weight, noticing that certain parts of the platform responded better than others. Slowly, deliberately, he moved forward, testing each step. Alira's gaze followed him, calm and steady, giving him the quiet assurance that he was being observed but not rushed. Halfway across, a sudden tilt made him stumble. His heart leapt, but he did not panic. Instead, he paused, studied the platform, and understood that he needed to anticipate its movement, not simply react to it. With patience and focus, Kale stepped forward again, each movement deliberate, his mind and body in perfect coordination. Finally, he reached the center platform. Alira nodded once approvingly. You have passed the first test. Many would have failed, letting fear control them. You have controlled fear. That is an important lesson. Kale exhaled, relief flooding through him. Thank you, Princess Alira. I will do my best to continue. Alira's eyes gleamed. Your next challenge is not of the body, but of the mind. Come. She led him to a series of crystal structures that floated in a circle, each containing glowing symbols and shapes. These symbols represent ideas, concepts, and knowledge of my people. Your task is to understand and rearrange them to form a pattern that makes sense. Only by observing carefully and thinking clearly will you succeed. Kale approached the first crystal and studied the symbols. They were unlike any writing he had ever seen, flowing and luminous, changing subtly as he moved closer. He realized that this was a test of observation and creativity. He spent hours analyzing the symbols, noticing patterns, sequences, and connections. Slowly, he began to rearrange them, moving symbols with care, connecting ideas in ways that felt logical and elegant. As he worked, Alira remained nearby, her expression unreadable. Kale felt the pressure of her attention, but rather than panic, he focused even more. He had learned early in his training that concentration often made the difference between failure and success. He continued, step by step, until the last symbol fell into place. The pattern glowed brightly, and Alira's eyes softened. You have completed the second trial. You see connections where others see chaos. That is an admirable trait of humans, Kale. Your mind does not fear what it cannot yet understand. It seeks understanding. That is why you were chosen. Kale felt a sense of pride, but also humility. He realized that Alira's tests were not meant to humiliate him, but to reveal his strengths. They were designed to challenge him, yes, but also to teach him something about himself. The third trial was yet more difficult. Alira led him to a vast garden suspended above the city, filled with plants and creatures unlike anything Kale had ever seen. Some plants floated in the air, others glowed softly, and creatures with shimmering scales moved gracefully among the foliage. Here, Alira said, you must demonstrate your compassion and understanding. Some of these creatures are delicate and frightened. You must guide them to safety without harm. Kale nodded. He had never worked with alien life before, but he understood that patience and calmness were key. He approached a small creature that looked like a tiny dragonfly but had the translucent wings of crystal. It flinched at his presence. He spoke softly, even though he doubted it could understand him, and extended his hand gently. Slowly, the creature came closer, sensing his care. Kale guided it to a safe perch on a nearby plant. One by one, he helped other creatures in the garden, sometimes thinking carefully before acting, sometimes relying on instinct. He began to notice patterns in their behavior, subtle signals that told him when to move and when to wait. By the end of the trial, all the creatures were safe and the garden was calm again. Alira's gaze was filled with approval. You have completed 3 trials. You have shown courage, intelligence, and compassion, qualities that many humans possess, yet often do not realize until they are tested. That is why you were chosen. Kale felt exhausted, yet exhilarated. He had faced challenges that would have overwhelmed others, and yet he had succeeded. But he knew there were more trials to come, and perhaps more difficult ones. He also understood that this was only the beginning of his journey. Rest now, Alira said, her voice gentle. Tomorrow you will face trials that test your creativity, your adaptability, and your loyalty. But for now, remember what you have learned today, that human courage is not only in strength, but in the mind and heart. Kale left the garden, walking slowly back to his chamber. His muscles ached, and his mind was still buzzing with excitement and concentration. He could hardly believe how much he had accomplished in a single day. Yet he felt a new confidence growing within him, a quiet certainty that he could rise to meet whatever challenges lay ahead. That night, as he gazed out at the stars from his chamber window, Kale reflected on the trials. Each one had been a test, yes, but also a lesson. He realized that Alira's choice was not just about him. It was about the potential of humans to grow, to adapt, and to shine in ways even aliens could not fully predict. And somewhere deep within, Kale felt a spark of something new, the first taste of destiny. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he was ready. With every trial, he would prove that humanity, young and untested though it may be, was capable of greatness. The palace shimmered in the quiet night, a living world of light and energy, and Kale felt a strange sense of peace. He had survived the first day, he had learned, and he had begun to understand why he had been chosen. For the youngest human warrior, the journey had only just begun, but already he felt that his place in the stars and in Alira's story was becoming clear. And that thought filled him with courage, determination, and the quiet, unshakable hope that he could meet any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The morning sun bathed the Lumerian palace in a soft, golden glow, and Kale felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness as he prepared for the day ahead. Yesterday's trials had tested him in ways he had never imagined, and though he had succeeded, he could feel the weight of the challenges yet to come. Each victory brought not only relief, but also a sense of responsibility. A responsibility to prove that humans could rise to meet even the most alien expectations. As he stepped into the palace courtyard, he found Princess Alira waiting. She moved with the same calm, graceful presence that had captivated him the first day, but today there was something different in her eyes, a flicker of curiosity and perhaps even admiration. "Good morning, Kale," she said softly. "You have shown great promise in your trials. But today, the challenges will test not only your mind and courage, but your ability to work with others." Kale nodded. "I will do my best, Your Highness." Alira led him to a large platform that floated above a vast garden filled with crystal flowers and alien creatures. At the center of the platform was a strange device, an intricate puzzle of lights, shapes, and symbols that seemed to shift as one looked at it. Surrounding the device were small Lumerian apprentices, young learners who had been observing Kale's previous trials from a distance. "Today," Alira explained, "you must work with these young apprentices to activate the device. It is delicate and requires cooperation, understanding, and trust. None of you can succeed alone." Kale glanced at the apprentices. They were nervous, whispering among themselves, unsure of how to follow his lead. He realized quickly that his human way of thinking, direct, flexible, and sometimes unconventional, would be different from the Lumerians' structured approach. Yet he also understood that this difference could be a strength. "All right," Kale said, taking a deep breath. "Let's figure this out together. Watch the patterns and tell me what you see." The apprentices looked at him with surprise. Humans did not usually lead the Lumerians in anything, yet Kale's calm and respectful tone seemed to put them at ease. Slowly, they began to describe what they saw, the shifts in light, the movement of the symbols, the subtle changes in the shapes. Kale listened carefully, nodding and piecing together the information. "This is like a puzzle," he said aloud. "If we place the pieces in the right order, the device will respond, but we have to move together. One wrong move and it could reset." The Lumerian children nodded, and Kale guided them step by step. He encouraged their observations, praised their insights, and corrected mistakes gently, making the task feel like a shared adventure rather than a test. As they worked, Kale realized something remarkable. Humans and Lumerians could think differently, but together, their minds complemented each other perfectly. Hours passed, and the device began to respond. Lights pulsed in harmony, shapes aligned in perfect symmetry, and a low hum of energy filled the air. Kale felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for the team he had guided. When the final symbol clicked into place, the device glowed brilliantly, sending a wave of light that spread across the garden. The young apprentices cheered, and even Alira allowed herself a small smile. "You have done well," she said. "You have not only completed the challenge, but you have also shown the value of cooperation, leadership, and understanding. These qualities are rare, Kale, and they are part of what makes humans extraordinary." Kale felt a warmth in his chest at her words. For the first time, he sensed a deeper connection with Alira, not just as a princess observing a trial, but as someone who saw the potential within him, who valued his mind, heart, and courage. After the challenge, Alira led Kale to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. Floating walkways stretched into the distance, and the twin moons of the Lumerian world hung low in the sky, casting a soft silver light over the shimmering palace. Kale took a moment to breathe, feeling the calm of the night and the beauty of the alien world. "Kale," Alira said, her voice softer than usual, "do you understand why you were chosen?" Kale hesitated. I think it is because of the way I think and maybe the way I care, but I don't fully understand. You could have chosen anyone." Alira's eyes reflected the light of the moons. "Many could have been chosen, yes, but humans have something that is rare in my world, a mixture of courage, creativity, and empathy. You see possibilities where others see limits. You act not only with skill, but with heart. That is why I pointed at you. That is why you are here. Kale felt a surge of gratitude and determination. I won't let you down, Your Highness. I will learn, I will grow, and I will prove that humans are worthy. Alira smiled faintly. I do not expect perfection. I expect effort and the willingness to try even when the path is uncertain. That is the mark of a true warrior, Kale. The next trial came the following day. This time, Kale was not alone. Alira had summoned a group of skilled Lumerian warriors to join him in a simulated test of strategy and coordination. The exercise took place in a massive arena floating above the city, filled with shifting platforms, obstacles, and holographic projections that simulated challenges of both combat and problem-solving. Kale felt a thrill of excitement. Unlike the previous trials, which focused on individual skill, this test demanded that he communicate, lead, and adapt to new situations in real time. He studied the arena carefully, observing the strengths and weaknesses of his teammates. Then he began to coordinate their movements, offering suggestions, asking for feedback, and encouraging them to share ideas. At first, the Lumerian warriors were skeptical. Humans were young, inexperienced, and often unpredictable. Yet Kale's confidence and clarity slowly won them over. They followed his lead, adapting to his strategies, and soon the team was moving in unison. Platforms shifted smoothly, obstacles were navigated with precision, and holographic challenges were solved with creativity and teamwork. Through this trial, Kale learned more about Alira as well. She observed quietly, her expressions calm but attentive, occasionally offering advice or guidance. He began to understand that her role was not only to test him, but also to mentor him, to push him toward realizing his full potential. Each time she spoke, her words carried insight and wisdom, and Kale found himself growing, not just as a warrior, but as a thinker, a leader, and a human capable of inspiring others. By the end of the trial, the arena glowed with success. The human and Lumerian teams had worked together flawlessly, achieving results that impressed even Alira. She stepped forward, her gaze meeting Kale's. You have done more than succeed, Kale, she said. You have built trust, inspired others, and shown that humans can adapt in ways even my people did not expect. That is why you were chosen. That is why I see in you the potential for something greater than either of our worlds has known. Kale felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The trials had been difficult, but he had not only survived, they had allowed him to grow, to demonstrate the best of human qualities, and to earn the respect of a people far older and wiser than his own. And through it all, Alira had been there, guiding, observing, and now acknowledging him not just as a test subject, but as someone capable of greatness. As night fell over the floating city, Kale and Alira walked along a quiet bridge, the moonlight casting gentle reflections on the crystal surfaces around them. The air was filled with a soft hum of energy, and the stars above twinkled like 1,000 silent witnesses to their journey. You have changed, Kale, Alira said softly. Not only in skill, but in understanding. You see the world not only as it is, but as it could be. That is rare, that is human, and that is why I believe in you. Kale felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. For the first time, he felt that he was truly part of something larger than himself, part of a connection that spanned worlds. He looked at Alira and nodded, determination shining in his eyes. I will continue to grow, Princess Alira, he said. I will continue to learn, and I will prove that humanity can be a force for good, for courage, and for hope. Alira smiled, and for the first time, Kale felt that their bond went beyond the trials, beyond the tests, and into something more profound. It was a bond of trust, respect, and mutual understanding, a partnership that had the potential to change not just their lives, but the future of both their peoples. The youngest human warrior had begun to understand that his journey was not only about proving himself, but about building bridges, inspiring others, and showing that humanity, though young and untested, could shine in the face of the unknown. And as they walked side by side under the twin moons, Kale felt a quiet certainty in his heart. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage, wisdom, and the unshakable spirit of a human determined to rise. The twin suns of the Lumerian world had just risen, casting long streaks of golden light across the floating crystal towers of the palace. Kale stood on the terrace, taking in the beauty of the city. Yet today, the usual calm and wonder were replaced by tension. Alira had called for an emergency meeting, and the entire Lumerian court, along with human delegates, gathered in the grand hall. "Something is coming," Alira announced, her voice steady but filled with concern. "A cosmic anomaly approaches our system. It is unlike anything we have faced before. Its energy could destabilize the planet if it is not stopped." The humans and Lumerians alike murmured, anxiety rippling through the hall. Kale felt his pulse quicken. This was a threat far greater than any trial or challenge. This was real danger, a situation where lives were at stake, and where he would have to rely not only on courage but also on ingenuity. "What do we know about it?" Admiral Valen asked, stepping forward. "It moves unpredictably," Alira explained. "It distorts energy fields, and its approach affects gravity, weather, and the natural order of our planet. We have technology that can counter it, but only if humans and Lumerians work together. Separately, we will fail." Kale's mind raced. He had never faced a challenge like this before, but he remembered the lessons of the trials: observation, cooperation, creativity, and courage. If he could apply those lessons here, perhaps they could succeed. Alira turned to him, her eyes bright with urgency. "Kale, I believe you can help us find a solution. Your perspective, your ingenuity may be exactly what we need." Kale swallowed and nodded. "I will do my best, Princess. We will find a way." The first step was to understand the anomaly. Kale and a team of Lumerian scientists and engineers gathered around a holographic display in the palace's research chamber. Streams of glowing data danced in the air, showing the anomaly's trajectory, energy fluctuations, and effects on the planet. Kale studied the patterns carefully. To the Lumerians, the anomaly seemed chaotic, impossible to predict, but Kale noticed subtle rhythms, small cycles that repeated. "It's like a puzzle," Kale said. "At first it seems random, but there are patterns. We can use those patterns to guide our response. If we align our energy fields with its cycles, we might stabilize it before it reaches the planet." The Lumerians looked at him in surprise. His observation, simple but insightful, had revealed something they had overlooked. Alira's eyes gleamed. "That is exactly what I was hoping for. Humans think differently. They see possibilities where we see obstacles." Kale worked tirelessly with the Lumerians, combining human technology with Lumerian energy manipulation. They modified energy shields, synchronized power sources, and adjusted control algorithms to match the cycles Kale had identified. Hours turned into a day, and Kale barely rested. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, yet he felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. Meanwhile, Alira coordinated the palace and the city, ensuring the population remained safe while giving Kale and the scientists freedom to work. She moved gracefully, directing resources and maintaining calm, yet Kale could sense the worry beneath her composed exterior. For the first time, he felt a strong desire to protect her, not just the people, but Alira herself. Finally, the moment came. The anomaly approached the planet, its swirling energy visible in the sky, a massive storm of light and force. Kale stood at the control station, his fingers moving quickly, coordinating the human and Lumerian systems. Lights pulsed along the shields, energy flowed along the crystal conduits, and the planet itself seemed to hum in response. The anomaly crashed against the energy shields. For a moment it seemed that all might fail. The shields trembled, the ground shook, and the energy readings spiked. Kale stayed focused, remembering the lessons of the trials: calm observation, trust in teamwork, and creative problem-solving. He adjusted the shields, redirected energy flows, and communicated with the Lumerian operators with precision and clarity. Slowly, the anomaly's chaotic movement began to stabilize. The energy waves that had threatened the planet now flowed harmlessly around it, absorbed by the synchronized shields. Kale felt a surge of relief as the storm dissipated, leaving the sky clear and calm once again. Alira approached him, her eyes shining with admiration. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved the planet." Kale shook his head, smiling with humility. "We did it, humans and Lumerians together, that's why we succeeded." Alira nodded, her smile warm and genuine. "Yes, and that is why you were chosen, Kale. Your courage, your mind, and your heart made this possible. I see now what others may not have noticed. Humanity's greatest strength is not just in skill or strength, but in ingenuity and determination." The Lumerian court erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the palace. Humans and Lumerians alike celebrated the victory, but Kale felt something deeper. This was not just about saving a planet. It was about proving that humans, even the youngest and least experienced, could rise to meet challenges that seemed impossible. That evening, Alira invited Kale to the palace gardens. The air was calm, filled with the soft hum of energy and the gentle glow of floating flowers. Kale walked beside her, reflecting on the events of the day. "You were extraordinary today," Alira said. "Not only did you find a solution, but you also inspired those around you." "That is a rare gift." Kale felt a flush of pride, but remained humble. "I just tried to think clearly and work with others. If we had not worked together, none of this would have been possible." Alira smiled, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "It is rare to see such courage and collaboration. You remind me that humans, though young and untested in the galaxy, have potential beyond imagination. Today, you proved it." Kale realized that her words were not only praise, but also recognition of something deeper, a belief in humanity itself. He had grown from a young, uncertain warrior into someone who could face cosmic threats with courage, ingenuity, and empathy. The days that followed were quieter. The anomaly had passed, and the city began to recover from the tense hours of preparation. Yet Kale knew that this experience had changed him forever. He was no longer just the youngest human warrior. He was a symbol of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and heart worked together. Alira and Kale spent more time together, discussing strategy, philosophy, and the future of their worlds. Their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect, shared challenges, and a recognition of each other's strengths. Kale found that he could trust her judgment, and Alira saw in him a partner, not just a student or subordinate. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the palace, Alira turned to Kale. "You have changed the way my people see humans," she said softly. "You have shown that courage and ingenuity are not limited by age or experience. That is why I chose you, not just for trials, but for the future." Kale felt a quiet pride and a deeper understanding of his role. He realized that his journey was not only about proving himself, but about building bridges, inspiring others, and demonstrating the best of humanity. The Lumerians had seen what humans could do in times of trial, and Kale had been at the center of it. "Thank you, Princess Alira," Kale said. "I will continue to grow, to learn, and to protect what we have built together. Humanity will not disappoint you." Alira smiled, her gaze soft but unwavering. "I know you will not, and I believe that together, humans and Lumerians can achieve more than either of our worlds has imagined." As they stood side by side, looking out over the city, Kale felt a sense of purpose deeper than any he had ever known. He had faced a threat that seemed impossible, and through courage, ingenuity, and cooperation, he had helped save an entire world. But more than that, he had begun to understand the true power of humanity, not in weapons or technology alone, but in the heart, mind, and spirit of those willing to rise to any challenge. The night was calm, the stars bright, and Kale knew that the journey ahead would bring even greater challenges. But he also knew that with courage, intelligence, and heart, humans could rise to meet them all. And somewhere in the quiet glow of the palace gardens, Alira's presence reminded him that he was never truly alone. For the youngest human warrior, the trials of courage had passed, and the trials of leadership and wisdom had begun. And for the first time, Kale understood what it meant to be truly human, brave, resourceful, and determined to shine, even among the stars. The Lumerian city sparkled like a jewel under the twin moons, its crystal towers reflecting light across the sky. After the cosmic anomaly had passed, a new calm had settled over the floating world. Humans and Lumerians had celebrated their cooperation, and Kale felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Yet, even amid the calm, he knew that the work ahead was not finished. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, and humanity had only begun to prove itself. Kale walked beside Princess Alira along a terrace overlooking the city. The air was cool, carrying the gentle hum of energy from the palace's floating structures. He remembered the trials, the cosmic threat, and the countless moments where he had been unsure of his own strength. Now, standing here, he realized how far he had come. The journey had transformed him, not just as a warrior, but as a human capable of inspiring trust, courage, and hope. Alira turned to him, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the moons. Kale, she said, her voice gentle but firm, your journey has shown my people that humans are capable of more than we imagined. Your courage, intelligence, and compassion have earned our respect. But the work does not end here. Kale nodded. I understand, Princess. I am ready to continue. Together, humans and Lumerians can face whatever comes next. Alira smiled, and for a moment, Kale saw the warmth beneath her composed exterior. Yes, together. That is why I pointed to you the first day. Not because of strength alone, but because I saw the potential for partnership, for unity, and for a future where both our peoples thrive. Their partnership had become more than a test or a challenge. It had become a symbol. Kale realized that his actions, though small in the scale of the galaxy, carried weight. His courage had inspired the Lumerians, his ingenuity had saved their world, and his compassion had shown them the best of humanity. In the days that followed, Kale worked closely with Alira and the Lumerian Council to establish new protocols for cooperation. Humans shared their technology, strategies, and ideas, while the Lumerians offered their advanced energy manipulation and wisdom. Together, they created a system that allowed both civilizations to respond quickly to cosmic threats, explore new worlds, and foster understanding between their peoples. Kale found himself growing in ways he had never imagined. He trained not just in combat, but in diplomacy, strategy, and leadership. He met young Lumerian apprentices and taught them human problem-solving techniques, while learning from their advanced knowledge and insight. Each day he felt more confident, more capable, and more certain of humanity's potential. Alira watched him with quiet pride. She had seen many beings pass through the trials of her palace, but Kale was different. He had faced danger without fear, solved problems without arrogance, and inspired those around him without seeking recognition. He embodied the qualities she valued most: courage, intellect, empathy, and the drive to make a difference. One evening, Alira invited Kale to a ceremony in the central plaza. The city was alive with light and music, a celebration of unity between humans and Lumerians. Kale stood among the crowd, feeling both nervous and honored. The Lumerian Council addressed the gathering, praising the collaboration that had saved the planet and highlighting the role of the young human warrior. Kale listened as Alira spoke. Kale has shown us that humans, though young in the galaxy, have great potential. Through courage, creativity, and compassion, he has helped our world. He is not just a warrior, but a symbol of what humanity can achieve. Let this be a reminder that together, we can accomplish more than we could alone. The crowd erupted in cheers, both human and Lumerian voices mixing in a chorus of celebration. Kale felt a warmth in his chest. He had never imagined that one young warrior could have such an impact, but now he understood that courage, ingenuity, and heart could change the world. Later, Alira approached him privately. Kale, the people have seen your courage and leadership. I have seen it too. But more importantly, I have seen your heart. That is why I trust you, why I believe in humanity, and why I know that together we can face the future. Kale looked into her eyes, understanding the depth of her words. I will not let you down, Princess. I will continue to learn, to grow, and to inspire. Humanity will not disappoint. She smiled softly. I know, and that is why I chose you. Their bond had grown stronger than either could have imagined. It was a partnership based not on titles or power, but on mutual respect, shared goals, and the belief that two civilizations could achieve greatness together. Kale felt a sense of peace and purpose he had never known. As the days turned into weeks, Kale and Alira worked together to strengthen ties between humans and Lumerians. They organized exchanges of knowledge, shared training exercises, and developed programs to explore new star systems safely. Humans taught adaptability, quick thinking, and innovation, while Lumerians shared patience, precision, and energy control. Together, they created a model of cooperation that could serve as an example for the entire galaxy. Kale's leadership became widely recognized. He was no longer just the youngest human warrior. He was a symbol of unity, courage, and human potential. Both humans and Lumerians looked to him for guidance, inspired by his actions and his character. Yet despite the recognition, Kale remained humble. He knew that the achievements were not his alone. They were the result of teamwork, trust, and the combination of human ingenuity with Lumerian wisdom. One quiet evening, Kale and Alira walked through the palace gardens, the floating flowers glowing softly in the night. Kale reflected on how far he had come, From a young, inexperienced warrior to someone who had faced trials, cosmic threats, and challenges beyond imagination. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. He had learned that ingenuity could solve problems that seemed impossible, and he had learned that empathy and understanding could unite even the most different of peoples. "You have changed the course of our worlds, Kale," Alira said, her voice breaking the peaceful silence. "Your courage and heart have inspired both humans and Lumerians. You are a true example of what humanity can achieve." Kale smiled humbly. "I only did what I could. Humanity is full of people capable of great things. I just hope that others will see what is possible and continue to rise to the challenges ahead." Alira's gaze softened. "They will, Kale. They will, because they have you as an example, and together we will face the future no matter what it holds." In the days that followed, Kale continued to grow as a leader and a partner to Alira. They explored new planets together, shared knowledge, and strengthened the bond between their peoples. Humans and Lumerians worked side by side, learning from each other, solving problems, and proving that cooperation could achieve wonders. Kale often thought back to the day Alira had first pointed at him. At the time, he had been confused, unsure why a princess of a powerful alien civilization had singled him out. Now he understood. She had seen potential not just in him, but in humanity itself. She had believed in what humans could achieve, and that belief had inspired him to rise to the challenge. The palace shimmered under the twin moons, and Kale felt a deep sense of purpose. He had faced trials, survived cosmic threats, and helped create a new era of cooperation and understanding. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, challenges, and opportunities. But Kale also knew that as long as humans continued to act with courage, intelligence, and heart, they could rise to meet any challenge. And in that moment, standing beside Alira, Kale felt something extraordinary. He realized that humans were capable not only of surviving in the galaxy, but of thriving, of inspiring others, building bridges and shaping a future filled with hope, courage, and possibility. For the youngest human warrior, the journey had begun as a simple trial, then grew into a test of courage, ingenuity, and leadership. Now it had become a mission, a purpose, and a partnership that would endure. Kale had proven that humanity, even when young and untested, could rise to greatness. And as he looked out over the city, glowing with energy and life, he knew that the future was bright, not just for humans or Lumerians, but for all those willing to face the unknown with courage, wisdom, and heart. Kale had become more than a warrior. He had become a symbol of unity, hope, and human potential. And with Alira by his side, he knew that together they could face anything the galaxy had to offer. The stars above twinkled like distant promises, and Kale felt ready. Ready to explore, to learn, to inspire, and to lead. The youngest human warrior had found his place, not only in the Lumerian world, but in the story of the galaxy itself. And the future, vast and unknown, waited with endless possibilities.